And 4chan isn't the only image board that exists. There are thousands of image boards now, and so the first place you see 4chan memes end up are other image boards, because the overlap in the demographic and kind of the tastes there's a very big overlap there. And then you get into the friends and family, similar online communities where, again, these ideas are popular. And when you cross the line into the macro appeal, that's where we get Rickroll and lolcats and whatnot, and it gets beaten to death, and they become horrible, and that's when we all hate these memes now. It goes kind of from funny to played out, if you will. And that stage of kind of friends and family and similar online communities, I think is the kind of critical gap between what keeps a meme local versus mainstream. And these are just a few examples of all of the ones on the left. So these are all 4chan memes. These are all big memes too. But I'm sure most of you here don't know what any of this stuff is. But there are millions of people who do. It's just they happen to be 4chaners or people who kind of use 4chan-like sites. But in the lower right, these are the memes that I think most people here would be familiar with, which are the Rick Astley again, lolcats, just the resurgence of fail being like a kind of an in-word thing to say. Like somebody does something stupid, you say fail. Anonymous. How many people here are familiar with the Anonymous versus Scientology protests? Okay, well, actually not that many, really. And this other example I used, Chocolate Rain, Tay Zonde, kind of most probably like not that popular outside the U.S., but this guy put up a video on YouTube and became very, very popular, went on late night talk shows and whatnot, and even did a commercial for Dr. Pepper because of this ridiculous song that he performed and 4chan fell in love with. So there are thousands of these micro memes and only tens of these macro memes. And so what determines which meme will become popular? It's a mystery, but it's kind of not. There are obviously a lot of companies these days purporting to kind of know the answer to this question, and they're all full of shit. So it has to do with appeal again. People, and I'll use an example for a second, but so people can kind of get behind funny pictures of cats, right? I think that's that slide. Yeah. So most people like cats or will find humor in a picture of cats. But if you pick something a little more polarizing, like dead baby jokes, okay, that's a little, so you're not going to find a lolcat having to do with something repulsive like dead baby jokes, right? Like you're not going to see Oprah talking about. You're not going to see Nancy Pelosi. You're not going to see the mainstream media talking about kind of sick, dirty in-jokes. You're going to see them talking about this dumb stuff, really, because it has wide appeal. It has macro appeal. Accessibility. So my mother knows how to get lolcats. My mother does not know how to get Chocolate Rain. My mother doesn't understand one of the other memes. They're like Ouija. These are all like really cryptic, and they only appeal to the 4chan demographic and kind of younger people. And so for a meme to really break out into the macro, it has to be accessible to all people. Timing is important. Just to talk about timing on 4chan, because of the way. So it's kind of interesting. On the site, you can actually see the culture roll over during certain countries' peak times, and so the culture on the site, what you see being posted in the US's prime time, is very different. When you get late into the night, like midnight Pacific time, actually it's Australia's prime time. And you'll see all of these threads with Australians posting. And kind of like as the US drops off, Australia picks up. And I've never actually been awake late enough to see what happens after that. But I imagine you would see, I don't know, when you get into Asia, you'd see more of those countries posting. And so the kind of the culture and the dynamic of the site changes. So if you're posting something that's only funny to Australians at a time when Americans are using the site, I mean, obviously you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot there. There's less of a chance that it'll strike a chord and people will like it. And it has to be relevant, obviously. It has to be something, and relevance meaning kind of relevant to what's going on in the world even. I don't know what cats kind of had to do with the, say, political climate at the time, but maybe people maybe people needed that. Maybe that was like, I could use cute cats right now with this whole economic thing I know. But at the end of the day, it's entirely unpredictable. I mean, there's really no way to know what will catch on and what won't catch on, because people are people and people are random, and so there's no way of there's no, I don't think, empirical way of determining what can be big and what can't. I think there are certainly ways to kind of pick up on, well, this has a chance, just looking at the factors I've listed. You can say, oh, does this have appeal? Is this successful? Is this the right time? But again, at the end of the day, it's pretty much entirely random. And so some of the things I've learned from 4chan about kind of creating this ideal environment for creating memes is openness. Again, 4chan is, I think, about as open as you can get. I don't see how the site could be any more open, because there are no really restrictions on posting, and you don't need to register. You can really just go to the site, punch in a few words, hit submit, and you're there. I think it doesn't get any more open than that, unless you had like your computer posting for you, which isn't going to happen. Don't stifle creativity. I've learned that when a lot of people start websites, they have a very kind of clear way of how they think people should use their website. And when I started the site, I had no really idea of what I wanted it to be, and I had no thinking on how people should be using it. And so it started with no rules, and I didn't really give the users guidance. I said, here's this thing, you can post pictures, you can post text, have fun. And the site has become what it is today through that. I think if I had started, say, with 40 different boards, and we only started with this one board, the random board. And so imagine if I had started the site with 10 boards, each having 40 different rules per board. I mean, nobody would have used the site. That's just, how can you be creative on a site where you've got all of these restrictions in place, especially from the outset? And the way the 4chan has grown has been organically. It's been about kind of letting the users use the site and addressing their needs, how they've come along. I didn't overbuild the site from the outset, because I didn't know what I wanted it to be, and I've only ever responded to what the users have kind of demanded over the time, or identified what could benefit them and added it that way. And so there's really no easy formula. As I said it earlier, there are now thousands of image boards. So 4chan was really kind of the first English image board, and now there are just hundreds of English image boards, and just thousands in general of all languages now. And none of them really rival the size of 4chan. 4chan is by and large, or just by far, the largest English image board, and probably now the largest in the world. The site that it was modeled after, this Japanese website, Futaba, is actually now, I think, smaller than 4chan. And so in about 6 years, we've become larger than the site that kind of birthed us, if you will. And so I guess in our case it kind of worked out, but we didn't really try to replicate Futaba exactly. We just really like this concept of image boards and anonymity. But so there are literally carbon copies of 4chan, and none of them have received the same success as it has, because I think it's just very hard to have that happen. So that's it, actually. Thank you for listening to me talk. And now I'd actually be more interested in hearing what you all have to say, be it questions or comments having to do with 4chan, or just memes and the spread of viral content in general.
Okay, any questions?
You stated that in the beginning you didn't really have a plan, like what would go on at this platform. Did you, in a way, follow how it developed, and if there were, like, could you mark certain phases that the platform went through?
I'd say phases in terms of like the culture has certainly changed over the years. When you look back at what people were posting 4 or 5 years ago, the content of their post was very different. For example, when people started using the site, actually, because you can input a name, almost everybody was inputting names, and all of their posts were very well formed. Like, they had full sentences and